Have you bought this crochet kit from Kmart? Are you completely confused by the instructions? If so, know that you're not alone. Throw the instructions away, watch this tutorial instead, and I'll show you how to make this cute little axolotl. Okay, so this is everything that you get included in the kit. There is 2 types of pink yarn, some white yarn, a little bit of black yarn, some polyfill. They give you a stitch marker and a plastic tapestry needle, and a 2.5mm crochet hook, along with the instructions. I'm going to use my own 2.5mm crochet hook for this tutorial. This is the Clover and More, just because I find the quality of the ones they include in the kit is pretty rubbish. Okay, we're going to start with the body, and for that you want the lighter pink yarn. We're going to start with a magic ring. If you're new to crochet, I've included a link down below for a beginner's tutorial for how to do a magic ring, and in that tutorial I also show you an alternative approach you can use if you're struggling to get the hang of the magic ring, as it can be a little bit tricky. But to do a magic ring, you want to hold your yarn tail facing down between your thumb and first finger, and then wrap the yarn around your first 2 fingers, underneath and over the top in an X like so. You want to go under this first strand of yarn, grab the second strand and pull it through to the other side, and then twist it so it's sitting on top like so. And then you want to grab this strand of yarn and pull that through the loop on your hook. I'll show you that one more time. Yarn tail down, wrap it around in an X and hold it in place with your 3rd finger. Under the first strand, grab the second strand, pull it through and twist it on top. Grab this strand and pull that through the loop on your hook. Hi, I just wanted to quickly jump in here to tell you that I am very excited to have launched my own Learn How to Crochet kit. So if you're getting frustrated with your Kmart kit at any point and you want to upgrade to a kit that has better materials and better quality instruction, be sure to check out my Learn How to Crochet kit in my YouTube storefront or on Etsy or madeit.com.au. I'll include a little bit more information about the kit and what you can expect at the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to do 8 single crochets into the magic ring. Now the instructions say double crochet. That's because they are using UK terminology. The Kmart kits frustratingly seem to randomly alternate between using US and UK terminology. So for consistency, I always use US terminology. So it's the same stitch, but it's called a double crochet in UK terms and a single crochet in American terms. So to do a single crochet into the magic circle, you just want to insert your hook into the magic circle, just holding the circle with your 3rd finger and thumb. Because this is our first stitch of the row, we want to mark it with our stitch marker because we're going to be working in the round, so we need to keep track of where our row starts and ends. Yarn over, so drape the yarn over your crochet hook, catch it in the head and pull it through to the other side of the circle. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then you want to yarn over again, so again just drape it from the back over the top and catch it in the crochet hook head and pull that through both of those loops. That's a single crochet. So just insert your stitch marker under both prongs of the V of the stitch that you've just made. And we're going to do 8 in total, so another 7 single crochets into the magic ring. Up to you whether you want to work over this tail or not. I usually like to work over it at least for a few stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Once you've done 8 stitches, it's a good idea just to count the V's on the top to make sure you've got 8. And then you can just pull on your yarn tail, and that will close your loop up into a wee circle like so. Now for round 2, we're going to do 8 increases, so that just means we're doing 2 stitches into every stitch. Our first stitch is going to be back into the stitch with our stitch marker. That was our first stitch of the first round, and into that stitch we'll do 1 single crochet, and then we'll do a second single crochet into the very same stitch, so going back in to the same spot where your stitch marker is. Now we want to move our stitch marker into the first of those two stitches we've just done, because that was our first stitch of the round. So again, where I'm inserting my stitch marker here, just under both prongs of the V and just below those prongs and above the base of the stitch, that's also where you want to be inserting your crochet hook. Okay, now we're just going to continue doing increases all the way around, so that means we're doing 2 single crochets into every stitch. So this is our next stitch here, and we'll do 2 single crochets, and then 2 into the next one. The way around. Till you get back just before your stitch marker. Now you should have 16 stitches by the end of this round, because we've done 2 into every one of the 8 from our first round. But again, it's always a good idea to stop and count, because it's really easy to accidentally add or drop stitches. For round 3, we're going to alternate between doing single crochets and increases. So into the first stitch, so the one with our stitch marker, we're just going to do the 1 single crochet, and we'll put our stitch marker back into that stitch. Then we'll move on to the second stitch, and into that one we will do an increase, so 2 single crochets into that second stitch. Into the third one we'll just do the 1 single crochet, and into the fourth we'll do an increase, or 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And then you just want to keep repeating that pattern around of single crochet, then an increase. If you do make a mistake at any point, you can frog your work, which you just take out your crochet hook and then just pull on the working yarn and your stitches will come undone, and you can work all the way back to wherever you made the mistake. Okay, now for round 4, we are going to do a single crochet into the first stitch and move our stitch marker. Then we're going to do an increase, so 2 single crochets into the second stitch, and then a single crochet into the third stitch, and then we're going to repeat that pattern of 3. So we'll do another single crochet into the next stitch, increase, single crochet, and just keep repeating that all the way around. Single crochet, increase, single crochet. Your last stitch should be a single crochet, and you should have 32 stitches by the end of round 4. For round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets in a row followed by an increase. So single crochet in the first stitch, another single crochet in the second stitch, and a single crochet in the third stitch, and then in the fourth stitch we'll do an increase. And just repeat that pattern around of single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, increase. By the end of row 5 you should have 40 stitches. Then for round 6 we're going to do 2 single crochets, increase 2 single crochets. So single crochet in the first stitch and in the second, an increase in the third, single crochet in the fourth, and single crochet in the 5th, and then repeat. So single crochet, single crochet, increase, single crochet, single crochet. Repeat that all the way around. By the end of row 6 you should have 48 stitches. Now before we start row 7, now is a good time to weave in your initial yarn tail. So you just want to pull up a big loop so you can remove your crochet hook. If you want to be extra careful, you can add another stitch marker here just to make sure this doesn't come undone. And then you want to turn your work over so it's facing the side that's got the tail poking out of it. You just want to pull that tail to close up the circle. And then you want to thread it onto your tapestry needle. They do include a plastic one in the kit, but they're really hard to work with, so I'm just going to use my metal one. And now we just want to weave in through a few of our stitches, and this is really just to ensure that our magic circle does not come undone. So you just want to work under ideally about 4 or 5 stitches, and you want to work in at least 3 different directions. Then you can just remove your tapestry needle. If this was going to be visible, then we could trim this tail, but this is going to be inside our axolotl, so it can just form part of the stuffing. Now for rows 7 through to 24, you're just going to do 48 single crochets all the way around. So just 1 single crochet into every stitch, and you'll repeat that for 17 rows in total, making sure to move your stitch marker at the start of each row so that you know when you've finished your row. And I'll meet you back here at the end of row 24. Okay, once you finish row 24, you should have something that looks kind of like this. Now for row 25, we're going to start to do some decreases, but we're going to start the row with 2 single crochets in the first 2 stitches. And then we're going to do a decrease over the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to show you how to do an invisible decrease, which I find is the best way to do decreases for amigurumi. So typically when you insert your hook into the stitch, you're going under both parts of the V. So you're going under both the front loop and the back loop of the V. To do a decrease, we want to go just under the front loop of the next stitch. So we'll just go under that front loop and come out in the middle of the V. Then you want to swing your crochet hook down so you can do the same thing on the next stitch. So just go under that front loop on the next stitch as well. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. You want to yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. And that's a decrease because we've essentially turned 2 stitches into 1. Then we want to do single crochets in the next 2 stitches. And then we'll repeat the pattern. So single crochet, decrease. So again, for a decrease, we go under that front loop of the next stitch, swing the crochet hook down to go under the front loop only of the stitch after that, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, and then 2 more single crochets. And then you just want to repeat this pattern around, so 2 single crochets, decrease 2 single crochets. You'll do it 8 times in total and have 40 stitches by the end of row 25. Then for rows 26 and 27, you'll just do 40 single crochets all the way around. For row 28, you'll do 3 single crochets in a row, then a decrease. You'll repeat that pattern 8 times and have 32 stitches by the end of row 28. For row 29, you'll do a single crochet, a decrease, a single crochet, then repeat that pattern 8 times. You'll have 24 stitches by the end of row 29. And then for row 30, you'll do a single crochet, decrease, single crochet, decrease. Just keep repeating that pattern 8 times. You'll have 16 stitches by the end of row 30, and I'll meet you back here at the end of row 30 to show you how to finish off the head and the body of your axolotl. Okay, once you've finished row 30, now we want to stuff the body of our axolotl. So you just want to grab the fibre fill that they include in the kit. They give you a lot more than you need, so don't feel the need to use all of it. You just want to get a nice consistent shape, but don't stuff it so much that the stuffing is starting to show through your work. Then for our final row, row 31, we just want to do decreases all the way around. I often find as well when you're working with really tight circumference, it's easier if you kind of squish your work so it's flat. I find that's just a bit easier to work with, especially given this yarn is quite slippery and not the easiest to work with. Okay, once you've done your 8 decreases all the way around, I'll show you how to finish off. So the pattern doesn't actually say this, but I think the best way to finish off the body of your axolotl first is to slip stitch back to the first stitch. So to do a slip stitch, you just insert your hook into the very first stitch of the last round, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to pull this first loop through the one that was already on our hook, and that's a slip stitch. Then we want to fasten off, so you just want to cut a yarn tail and leave a decent length, because I'm going to show you how to do an invisible close. And then you just yarn over and pull that yarn all the way through the loop on your hook and pull it tight, and that'll create a knot that will ensure your work doesn't come undone. Now you'll probably still have a gap in the top of your work like I do, so I'll show you how to do an invisible close just to ensure that no stuffing comes out of this gap. So you'll just want to thread your yarn onto your tapestry needle. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to work under the front loops, so the loops that are closest to us. So you just want to come up under the front loop of the first stitch, so in between the middle of the V, and pull that through. And then you want to come down under the front loop of the next stitch and just repeat this all the way around until you're back at the start. And then you can just pull on that tail and it will close up the gap in your work. Then we just want to weave in this end, so we just do that in the same way that we wove in our initial yarn tail, so just going in under a few different stitches in a few different directions. And then once you've done that a few times, you can actually just insert your tapestry needle into your work close to where the yarn's coming out and go through the body of your axolotl and poke it out somewhere else and just pull that all the way through. And then we can trim this tail and just wiggle it a little bit so that that end is hidden inside the body of your work, and the body of your axolotl is done. Okay, the next step is to make the hands. We're going to start the hands with another magic ring. So as a reminder for how to do a magic ring, you want to hold your yarn tail facing down between your thumb and first finger, wrap it around your first 2 fingers in an X, go under this top strand of yarn, grab the second strand of yarn and pull it through and twist it on top, and then grab this strand of yarn here and pull that through the loop on your hook. Then we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring, marking the first one with our stitch marker. Then you can pull on that yarn tail to close it up. For round 2, we're going to do increases all the way around, so 6 increases. So as a reminder, an increase just means you're doing 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Do 1 single crochet, move our stitch marker, second single crochet back into the very same stitch, and repeat this all the way around. Forgot to mention as well, you are using the same pink yarn that we used for the body For rows 3 and 4, we're just going to do single crochets all the way around, so 12 single crochets in total. And repeat this for round 4. Then before we start round 5, we want to weave in our initial yarn tail, just like we did for the body. So again, just work from the side where the tail is poking out and weave it through some of your stitches. And again, you can trim this tail if it's going to get in the way and bother you, but otherwise you can just tuck it inside your hand. Then for round 5, we're going to alternate between single crochets and decreases. So single crochet in the first stitch, and then a decrease, single crochet, decrease, and just repeat this all the way around. Then for round 6 and 7, you're just doing 8 single crochets all the way around. Then for our last row, we're actually going to seam the two sides of our hand together. They suggest putting some stuffing in at this point. I think with the tail in there, I think that's probably enough stuffing, so I'm not going to add any more, but you can add a little bit of fibre fill if you would like. Just want to fold the top of your work in half. Then you're going to go under the first stitch on the side that's closest to you, but then also poke through the corresponding stitch on the side that's furthest away from you. And then we're just going to do a single crochet, pulling the yarn through both of those stitches. And we'll do this 4 times in total to essentially seam the top of the hand together. And then we just want to fasten off, so cut a decent-ish yarn tail if you've got enough yarn left, because we'll use this yarn to attach the hand to the body. And then again, just yarn over and pull that yarn all the way through. And then you just want to repeat this process a second time to make your second hand. Okay, now for the horns. The horns are also made with a magic ring. So as a reminder, you want to have your yarn tail facing down between your thumb and first finger. Wrap your yarn around into an X, go under this first strand of yarn, grab the second strand of yarn and pull it through and twist it on top, and then grab this strand of yarn and pull it through the loop on your hook. And this time we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring, making sure to mark the first one with our stitch marker. Then once you've done 6, you can pull on the yarn tail to close it up. For round 2, we're going to alternate between single crochets and increases. So into the first stitch, we'll do a single crochet and move our stitch marker. And into the second stitch, we'll do an increase, so 2 single crochets. And we'll just keep alternating between single crochets and increases. Then for rows 3 through to 8, you're just doing 9 single crochet all the way around. Okay, then once you've finished row 8, we want to weave in our initial yarn tail. So to do that, I suggest just pushing your horn the wrong way out, so the side with the tail poking out on the outside, and then just weave in the end like we did for the body. Then you can just leave this tail inside the horn, so just push it through back to the right side and tuck that tail inside. Now to finish off the horn, we're going to seam the top of it together. So you just want to fold your horn in half like this, and then we go into the first stitch as normal, but then you also want to go under the matching stitch on the back side of the horn, and we'll do a single crochet as normal, pulling it through both of those stitches, and then we'll keep doing that across, so into a stitch on both halves and single crochet, and you want to do 4 in total. And then we can fasten off. You'll want to leave a decent yarn tail for attaching the horns to the axolotl's head, but not too generous, only because I'm a little bit concerned about how much yarn I've included and there's a risk you might run out. So again, to fasten off, we just yarn over and pull that yarn tail all the way through. So then you just want to repeat this process another 5 times, because you'll want 6 horns in total. Okay, so now you want to make the belly and the 2 eyes. So both the belly and the eyes are going to start with a magic ring. So as a reminder, you want to hold your yarn tail in your left hand between your thumb and first finger, wrap it around in an X, go under the first strand of yarn, grab the second strand of yarn, pull it through and put it on top, and then grab this strand of yarn here and pull that through the loop on your hook. For the belly, you're going to start with 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Then you can follow the instructions on the screen, so it's just alternating between single crochets and increases. So for round 2, you'll do increases all the way around. You'll have 12 stitches by the end of round 2. For round 3, you'll alternate between single crochets and increases. You'll have 18 stitches by the end of round 3. For round 4, you'll do a single crochet and increase, a single crochet. You'll repeat that pattern of 3 6 times and have 24 stitches by the end of round 4. For round 5, you'll do 3 single crochets followed by an increase, repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 30 stitches by the end of row 5. For row 6, you'll do 2 single crochets, an increase, 2 more single crochets, repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 36 stitches. And then for row 7, you'll do 5 single crochets, then an increase, repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 42 stitches. Then you just want to fasten off and make sure you leave a long yarn tail for the belly so that you can sew it onto your axolotl. Now for the eyes, you want to start that again with a magic ring. And we're just going to do 3 single crochets into the magic ring. Then you want to pull on your yarn tail to close it up. Now we want to slip stitch back to the very first stitch just to close up our circle. So just want to go back into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, and then we're going to pull this loop through the one that was already on our hook. And that's a slip stitch, and that'll just create a more circular space shape. And then we just want to fasten off. And you just want to repeat that a second time to make your second eye. Okay, and now for assembly. So all the parts that you will need to complete your axolotl is the body / head. You'll have 2 eyes, you'll have 6 horns, 2 hands and 1 belly. For the belly, you want to weave in your initial yarn tail so that you've just got 1 yarn tail remaining. Then the first step is to sew our horns together. So I've already done this set of 3, but essentially to do this, you want to take 3 of your horns and put the flat edges together. And then you want to grab 1 of your yarn tails and thread it onto your tapestry needle. And then we're just going to sew these 3 together. So you just want to go up to the top through the first stitch, through the second stitch and through the third stitch, making sure you're going through all 3 horns, and pull that all the way through. and then we'll go back up again under all 3 stitches. And continue this all the way across. Now we only need one of these yarn tails to attach the horn to the head, so pick out the longest yarn tail and leave that one aside, and then you can just weave in and trim off the other 2 yarn tails. Now with the eyes, it's a little bit hard to weave in your ends when they are so small, so I actually suggest just knotting your 2 yarn tails together. And again, we'll only need one to sew up, so take the shorter yarn tail, thread it onto your tapestry needle, and just try to work under a stitch or 2 if you can. And then you can just trim this tail. Okay, now we can start sewing our axolotl together. So we'll start with the belly. So the belly kind of sits on the bottom half of the body. So just attach it where you would like it to sit, and then you want to thread the white yarn tail onto your tapestry needle. Then what you want to do is kind of hold it in place flat against the body where you want it to sit, and what we're going to do is go under a stitch on the body of the axolotl that would sit just underneath the edge of where the belly is going to sit, so that the white yarn isn't visible, and just pull that all the way through. Then you want to come up through the belly and go down through the next stitch on the belly, and then again catch a stitch underneath on the body itself. And then you just want to continue this all the way around. Then once you get all the way back to the start, I suggest weaving in on the white section just to make sure that your yarn tail isn't going to come undone. And then we can deal with this yarn tail in the same way that we did on the body. So just insert your needle into your work and pull it out somewhere else, and then you can trim this yarn tail. Okay, now we want to attach the hands. So we're going to do this in a similar way. You just want to thread the yarn tail onto your tapestry needle. Line up where you want your arm to sit, keeping in mind you need to leave some room for the horns. I'm just going to count the rows down from the top of my belly as well, so I get it in the same place on both sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4 rows down. And then again, we just go under a stitch on the body, come up through the bottom of the arm, back down through the second stitch on the arm, catch another stitch, other arm. And same with our set of horns. You might find these a little bit harder to sew on because they're a bit thicker, but the concept is the same. Okay, and then our very last details are the face. So firstly, we just want to attach the eyes. mouth. So the mouth they have on the picture is sort of two little semicircles. So to do the mouth, you just want to cut a length of black yarn and thread that onto your tapestry needle. And you want to start somewhere, you can start anywhere on the body, but you want to have the tip of the needle come out where you want the mouth to start, and pull that through, but don't pull it all the way through. You want to leave a tail poking out, and just be careful not to accidentally pull it through. You want to go back down where you want the middle of the mouth to be, and then you also want to come out one stitch below, in between where this yarn starts and where you're inserting your needle. And you want to pull that through, but again, don't pull it all the way through. You want to leave a loop like so. What you're going to do is come up through that loop like so, and then you can pull that tight, and that will make a little semicircle. Then we can go back down just below that semicircle, and again you just want to come out where you want the left side of the mouth to be. And then we're just going to do the same thing. So we're going to go back in at the top of the semicircle we just made, and back down where we want the second little bottom of the semicircle to be. And pull that through, but not all the way through. And then once you've got a loop like so, you want to come up through the loop, and then you can pull it tight. And then we can just go back down underneath that semicircle and pop your needle out somewhere else. To make it extra secure, I'm just going to go back down in and come out somewhere else as well. And then we just want to do the same thing with this initial yarn tail. And your little axolotl is done. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope that you found it useful. And if you made it to this point in the video, I'm so grateful. You are my people, and I am so glad that you found your way here. And if this project has got you hooked on crochet, be sure to like and subscribe for more info and inspo for new crochet makers. Also, if you're really wanting to master the art of crochet, be sure to check out my Learn How to Crochet kit in my YouTube storefront. So this kit is a little bit different from others that you'll find in the market. I've designed this kit more like a Learn How to Crochet masterclass in a box. And by that I mean that I've specifically designed the patterns so that they are ideal for beginners, cover all of the major stitches and techniques that you'll want to master when you're starting out. What this means is that by the end of the kit, you'll be able to tackle basically any beginner, advanced beginner, and even some intermediate crochet projects. So in this kit, you'll learn things like how to keep your edges straight, how to manage your tension, how to seam, and even how to do some color work. Each pattern builds on the skills that you learned in the previous pattern so that your confidence and your skill set will grow as you work through the kit. And by the end of the kit, you'll have some great little items that you can use around your house. The kit is also designed to teach you how to read a crochet pattern because I've included detailed long form written instructions alongside short form notation in the format that crochet patterns are typically written, along with detailed step-by-step tutorials. It also includes troubleshooting support and other handy tips and tricks. I've also designed the projects to expose you to different types of fibers, different styles of crochet, and different hook sizes, so you can start to learn what you really enjoy to crochet with. So make sure you go and check it out and let me know what you think. If you want to say thanks for any tutorial that you found useful, you can buy me a coffee, which is linked down in the description below. Thank you so much for crocheting with me today, and happy crafting!